3 against the Buccaneers. We've got Arun back in the house. Welcome, Arun. How are you doing tonight?
Not bad. I guess that was the context was you saying Alex Ovechkin was the greatest athlete in DC of all time. So that's good to
That
hear.
was
All
the
right.
context. Got it. All right. That's fair enough. All right. I guess it's funny I didn't switch it to the Caps graphic because Carol caught me off guard. I didn't even think we were going to have Caps talk tonight, but that was pretty fun. I appreciate him for joining us as always. Again, 2-2, 149 left in the second period. We are going to switch gears to some NBA basketball. I was hoping Tim was going to be able to be on the show tonight, but unfortunately his plane was delayed. So we're going to do a three-man Wizards show. We're going to do this for about 20 minutes or so, and then we're going to switch gears. And I'm going to bring in some guests, including Ace Caltor 314, who's in chat, also known as Adrian. He will join us for some World Cup talk after this with Rune. And then we also have a special guest. I think the Modfather will be joining us as well. And so people don't know who the Modfather is on Facebook. He's Stuart. And he is awesome, and he's from Canada, so we'll get an international perspective on that as we also break down any scoring updates all night long on this Caps game. We are in the McNugget minute. I'm going to hold it here for just a second. 50 seconds left. Strome with a shot, a second opportunity. Neither of them go. The goalie has already put up 38 saves on 40 shots, and icing here with 40.3 seconds. So I'm going to actually switch the graphic real quick back to the Capitals one. And it's been a fun and exciting game. Obviously, Connor McDavid getting the shorthanded goal wasn't good, but I'm happy to see that the Caps were able to rebound with a TJ Oshie goal. And it's 2-2. And of course, Adrian is a fan of both of these teams. But he is Canadian, so I will give him. He's been an Oilers fan all of his life. And he's also a Caps fan, so he roots for both of these teams. So I'm sure that it's a difficult game for him to watch right now. But the Caps are keeping in the offensive zone here. About 30 seconds left in the second period. They're cycling it down low, and they pass up front. It goes off the side of the goalpost. The Oilers are able to recover. 20 seconds left. The Oilers are able to exit the zone to center. Dylan Strome was able to get the puck back. They try to re-enter the offensive zone. They do. But unfortunately, the Oilers are able to intercept. There's 7 seconds. The Caps will hold it here for the final 5 seconds of the period. And they will all go in to intermission, tied 2-2 at the end of second. Again, the Caps have put up 41 shots in the first 2 periods, and the Oilers have put up 19. And all right, so Arun, all right, now we'll switch to some Wizards talk. And it's been a frustrating week for the Wizards. So let me pull up the thing real quickly. But while I pull up the graphics and stuff, Arun, give your general thoughts of the
On the road, and even though there are some tough officiating calls, especially in the Charlotte game, which we'll get to, still the Wizards need to find a way to win these games, or they'll find themselves not in the playoffs.
Yeah, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. I think that we're back live on Twitch. Hold on, let me just double check it. I was trying to switch over host and instead it stopped the recording. But I do think that we're back there. Let me check.
We're still live on Twitch. We're good.
Yeah, let me check Facebook real quickly as well, but I'm also gonna give myself the ability to share my screen. So hold on, make a co-host. All right, let's see. Oh, and we're still live on Facebook. So that's amazing that the system is smart enough that if I quit out of that, it still stayed. Anyway, all right. Sorry, let me pull up the Wizards schedule real quickly while we talk about it. But for me, it was a frustrating week. I think Tim went to I think, a pretty good and exciting game. Let's break it down here. Sorry, let me switch screens and share. So what happens when I run two computers at once? And now I lost video on. I figured out how to fix this. And we're back. All right. Sorry about some of the technical difficulties, but here we go. We now got the scoreboard for the last week up. So when we last left off, the Wizards beat the Timberwolves. If people want a recap of that one, they can check out last week's show because we talked about it there. It sort of set up a game against the Nets, who's actually the team that we're going to be playing next week. And I may have Tim and possibly Arun and whoever else wants to come by and do the last live game of the year here. And I'll be watching the Wizards game live next week against this same Nets team and kind of do it as a belated birthday extravaganza for the podcast. But anyway, the Nets overtook the Wizards by 1 point in the first, 29-28, outscored us by 3 in the second. And then the Wizards outscored them just by 1 point in the third. It was pretty close, but the Nets outscored them by 3 in the fourth quarter. But overall, it was a pretty close game. But the Nets, I mean, Kevin Durant put up 39 points. But Porzingis also put up 27. Bradley Beal put up 25. And Kuzma put up 25. I'll start off with you, Champ. What were some of your thoughts on this game?
So you're coming off a game where you pretty much crushed the Minnesota Timberwolves, but you knew this was going to be a tough one with the Nets, and it proved to be a little too much for this team. Yes, your big three. I'm calling them the big three for the Wizards of Kuzma, Porzingis, and Beal all scored at least 25 or more points for you in close to 40 minutes apiece, and you couldn't stop the Nets and their offensive attack, and it's very frustrating when you look at that. So I mean, this wasn't a good start to the week. Defensively, it just looked like the team just wasn't there. They were trying to play it as a shootout instead of trying to hold down their best players, and it proved to bite them in the rear end. And that's not how you play a team like this. You have to be able to lock down their best players and force others to try to beat you, and that didn't happen. And so that's why they fell when they did. Like, you can't come off a big win like the Timberwolves and then go into Brooklyn and just lose like this. It's very demoralizing. It should be demoralizing as a player, it's very demoralizing as a fan, and it proved to be the start of what would be not a very good week for this team.
Yeah, it's a frustrating game. Arun, what's some of your thoughts?
A pretty winnable game for the Wizards, actually. They out-rebounded the Nets 51-35. So that's, but they also turned over the ball 5 times more, and Bradley Beal, he had 5 turnovers, which isn't going to get it done. But the biggest thing was that they missed 11 free throws. They got to the line 34 times, and that probably was the difference of the game, especially the game was closer than the 6-point margin, and I think the Wizards probably could have won this game if they had just knocked down their free throws.
Yeah, again, a frustrating game. I think that one that they really needed to win and kind of set the tables badly for the week in a lot of ways. The Hornets game was another game. This was a really weird game because I thought they were going to get blown out at one point, but then they came back in it. And anyway, well, let's break it down. The Hornets outscored them 36-31 in the first, then 38-28 in the second. I was like, oh man, they let them score almost 40 points in the second quarter. I watched that game and it's pretty rough. And but then in the third, they still let them outscore them again. And so the third consecutive quarter, they outscored them. So it's 33-29. And so the game, in my mind, was just like way over, but they clawed back into it, made it a game. I got to give the Wizards a lot of credit for that. I mean, I'll only allowed 10 points in the fourth and scored 28, but it's too little too late. Like, if they had some of that intensity in the first half, like, we'd probably win this game. Champ, what are some of your thoughts on this one?
This team has to realize something. They're not a 3-point shooting team. They got to stop trying to be a 3-point shooting team. They shot 36% from beyond the arc. That's not going to get it done in this game, and you're going up against one of the bottom level teams in the Eastern Conference, and they were blowing your rear ends out in this game. You waited until the fourth quarter to finally wake up and be like, oh, we're here. If that's too late. And then LaMelo Ball didn't even play in this game. He was out. And yet Kelly Oubre and Terry Rozier killed y'all. Like, that's the bottom line. This was a game that they should have absolutely ran away with. They should have ran away with, because the Hornets are not that good of a team. And then they didn't have their best player, and it took them to have to make a run in the fourth quarter to only lose by 1 point after they pretty much were getting dominated the entire game. This was another disappointing loss for this Wizards team. And these are the type of games you just don't lose. You don't lose these type of games. Yes, you were on the road, but this was a team that you were supposed to beat down, and they beat you down, and it took y'all to finally wake up in the final 12 minutes of a game to only lose by 1 instead of losing by 20 plus. That's very disappointing and not a great way to make your way in this season.
Yeah. Arun, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, the Wizards, they were getting kind of blown out for most of this game. I think they were losing by like 17 entering the fourth quarter or something like that. But they actually less than that. But they managed to hold the Hornets to 10 points, and they went to a big lineup of Gafford and Porzingis, which is interesting. Porzingis was kind of awful from 3 in this game, but just when he had that big game against Minnesota, he knocked down the threes, but he wasn't really getting it done on that end. He got to the free throw line a lot. Beal, he had 33 points, 7 assists, but 2 of his 3 turnovers came in the closing 2 minutes of the game. And he also, I think he missed a makeable shot, but I won't really fault him on that because the Wizards didn't have a timeout. But the Wizards did get kind of screwed over by the officials in this game, because in the 2-minute report, 3 of the 4 calls were against the Hornets, or it should have been the other way around. So in a 1-point game, it's kind of unfortunate, but as Ken alluded to, they probably should not have even been down by that much. Although I think the Wizards, they don't really beat Charlotte at Charlotte. I think they did beat them earlier in the season. I believe they had won there in a couple of years. So at least they're playing these games a lot better, but no LaMelo Ball, and it should be a win, but stranger things have happened. Like, this team has also beaten the Hornets, have beaten the Warriors. So it's disappointing, but it was a good effort in the fourth quarter, and maybe that Porzingis Gafford front line is something the Wizards can go to, especially if Denny keeps struggling from 3-point range.
For sure. All right, let's get into the final game. Tim is in Dallas right now, but I wanted him to break this game down because he was at it. We thought it was kind of going to be a blowout for a lot of it, or at least towards the end, and then the Wizards kind of made a game of it, or at least made it exciting, which I kind of appreciate. It became like a dunk fest. It became kind of like an all-star game, and like, if you're going to go down, at least make it entertaining, like, don't just sort of like lose by 20 and mail it in. I hate that. Like, so I give them a lot of credit for that. I know that you obviously want to win every game, but that's not going to happen. But at least, put up some shots and do some high flying acrobatics. And, I was at least entertained for the fourth quarter, even if I at no point really thought we were going to fully come back. But, the Lakers, started off strong, outscoring them 33-27. They kind of made a big, that second quarter where they outscored them 35-23. For me, it kind of gave them the cushion that they then used for almost the rest of the game. And then in the third, they outscored them 37-31. In the fourth, the Wizards actually came back and they put up 38 points in the fourth, and only allowed the Lakers to score 25 and made it a more respectable 11-point game. But it's too little too late again. It's kind of the same story that we were, of the week. But Champ, what are some of your thoughts on it?
I'm just going to be very blunt and very honest with everybody listening. Anthony Davis and the Lakers kicked our asses in our own house. Bottom line, Anthony Davis went out and scored 55 points with 17 rebounds. We got destroyed. Yeah, we only lost by 11. Big deal. We got absolutely rolled in this game. There was no resistance on offense. Even King James went off with 29. It was just no resistance when it came to defense. We are not a team that can be in a shootout type of game, honestly, because we don't have the defensive structure to be able to stop teams when we need to. This is just a game where we just didn't have it. And it just made for the end of what was a very miserable week as a Wizards fan, 0-3. And the bottom line is we were going up against two of these games were winnable games, and we lost them. That's very disappointing. And now we get the news today that Bradley Beal's about to be down for at least a week. So we lose one of our key players for at least a week. So this team has to figure it out. And they got to figure it out. I know, yeah, it's only December. It's a long season. But you don't want to start off and start regressing this early, because the moment you start regressing this early, you may end up not being able to recover from that. And that's what happened last year. Is like they start off strong, they regressed too early, and they couldn't recover, and that's why we end up missing the playoffs. This is a time right here where they got to get it together. They got to pull it together, because the season can go by just like that. And next thing you know, you're sitting at 10th or 11th in the Eastern Conference and nowhere near getting into the playoffs. And you don't want to be in that situation. This was a really bad loss. Really, really bad loss.
Yeah, it's frustrating because I've gone back and forth being a Lakers fan over the years. I was a big Kobe Bryant fan, so for a long time they were my second favorite team. I'm not the biggest LeBron fan, but Anthony Davis is really impressive. I mean, he put up 44 points in his previous game, so 99 points in 2 games. It's not. He's been on a really impressive tear lately. Arun, talk about the resurgence of this Lakers team, and then give your thoughts on this game as well.
Yeah, the Lakers have been playing pretty well lately. They just came off a win against the Milwaukee Bucks, and they just got Chris Middleton back. So I think even going to this game, they were underdogs. And in the 3-minute mark, when Bradley Beal went down with an injury and he was ruled out, I think this game was already over, even though the game was only a 1-point game. The Wizards are not a better team without Bradley Beal, even though they move the ball better. But in games there, LeBron James and Anthony Davis can put up a combined 84 points. You're going to need some more fire punch. Gafford did have a nice highlight alley-oop dunk, finished with 19 points, 9 of 10 from the field. He really hasn't been doing much. In the last 2 games, he's kind of found his footing. So it's kind of good that he's playing
he's getting playing time, right? He wasn't even being played, so it's hard for him to get going.
He was being played, but he was just awful defensively. But now, because when the game we went to, remember, they put in Todd Gibson instead of Daniel Gafford, and the Wizards made a huge comeback.
That's true.
And this game, and it's kind of also the last couple of games have been they've been kind of out of it, and he's kind of helped bring them back into the game, I guess. But this game was more of a blowout than the last game, and it wasn't even that close, even though it was an 11-point game.
That's what I was saying. That in my mind, that second quarter gave them the margin that you just knew they were going to lose by about 10 to 15 points, from that point on. It's frustrating. I mean, I was just happy because he got a lot of highlight reel dunks, out of it at the end of the game.
Really guarding Anthony Davis either, who put up 55 points.
Yeah,
so I don't know. It's kind of good. I hope it's good. People think he's good because they kind of need to move on. If they can trade him for something, because his extension's about to kick in and he's making I don't know, they'll probably draft another center if he doesn't play better. But I guess he's playing okay right now. But I wonder how much of it is fool's gold. But hopefully it continues. But if they're not going to be without Beal on this road trip, it may be tough, especially if Porzingis' 3 isn't falling. they're really going to lack scoring. They're
I
gonna
just think
need
that
to
they
get
should
two.
just try to. I understand in this league it's hard to not shoot the three, but I'm kind of with Ken that like we're not a 3-point shooting team, but we're
At
really good
all.
at points in the paint, and I just feel like you just keep on finding different ways to do that. I think that I don't know. I'm not saying give up on the 3-pointers at all. I want the attempts to come down a little bit, and because it's not. I understand Ken doesn't love 30%, but anything above 30% is technically good from three, like for statistically over the NBA in the history, right? So like 30 to 40% is what you want. But we
Well,
just
there are
having
a
too
couple
many.
of players. I saw like Denny, he's shooting like 22% from three, and like the last 3 games he's shooting like 9% from three. So maybe he should stop taking threes. But but I don't know. Like they can't. Porzingis, like that's kind of what somebody has to make threes in the modern NBA because like you can't just
They
keep banging it down low. Maybe against like other teams, but they're like the Lakers. They're not even a good 3-point shooting team. They shot like 38% from three. I guess they had their attempts down, but even I guess they didn't need to shoot threes because they're just getting whatever they want with the Wizards defense. But if like a team plays good defense, like the Brooklyn Nets or like I guess the Lakers, this was a good offensive output with 119 points to help spread the floor. But I don't know, like I think the problem is the defense, not really so much shooting threes, and they're shooting threes probably because they're like way behind, like because they're giving up way too many points. So at least in this game, maybe other games are shooting too many threes, but this game it's like since they're playing from as large as like a 23-point deficit in the fourth quarter, they kind of need to jack them up, get back into the game. Otherwise, they're not going to win. But overall, it's nice to go into the paint. But if you're way behind, you're going to have to jack up threes.
Yeah, no, I get that in theory. I guess I would like to see slightly less attempts and somehow win it in the paint. I want to ask you, Arun, real quickly before we move on. The record with and without Bradley Beal this season, is it better with him or without him?
It's better without him, but right now I just saw them play. They've been playing some pretty bad teams, if I recall correctly, and then like they have this win against the Mavericks, but the Mavericks have also managed to lose to like a couple of teams. I believe they lost to like the Nuggets or somebody without Jokic, or like they keep the Mavericks did lose to them without Beal, but they have a list of teams that they just like don't care and they don't show up, and it was a back to back. And this was like this was a game against the Lakers. If they're really better without Beal, they should be down by 23 points in the fourth quarter. So, and the last 3 years, they've definitely not been better without Beal. People are saying they have better ball movement, but that just may be more out of necessity. And if they're not going to knock down threes, weren't knocking down threes in Brooklyn or in Charlotte, but those games were decided by a combined 7 points. In this game, they were, I guess they lost by 11 points, but really they were losing by like 20 points until garbage time, probably closer.
Yeah. All right. Well, just for the sake of time, let's pull up the upcoming schedule here. I'm going to go back and talk about the upcoming games we've got here. And so we've got the Bulls on Wednesday, December 7th. It's an 8 p.m. game. And Friday, the Wizards play at Indianapolis. So it's my birthday. Then the Clippers play at the Wizards on Saturday, December 10th. And then the Nets play at the Wizards on Monday. So it's a lot of games in a very short period of time, Friday, Saturday, and Monday. And they got a bit of a road trip between the Friday and Saturday one and the Bulls team. So it's a tough line of games here. Ken, what are your thoughts going into having to go on a little road trip into the central time zone and then come back here for 2 at home and all these games happening in a relatively short period of time?
This is a tough stretch for this Wizards team. Having to go to Chicago. Chicago's not showing well this season so far. The record indicates that they're not really playing as well as they should. So this should be a game that they should be able to go in and win. But we already saw what happened with the Hornets. They were a team that aren't showing well in their record, and they ended up losing to them. Then the Pacers are actually playing pretty well, not too well, but well enough. They're kind of there, but it's going to be tough having to play the Pacers in Indiana and then come back home the next night and play a very tough Clippers team. So I predict that, and then we have the Nets, which is going to be a revenge game because they're coming to our house and they're going to have that stink. They're going to have that nasty taste in their mouth of them losing to them in Brooklyn recently. So they're going to look for revenge, but at the same time, it's 2 days after they come back from a away home and away sort of back to back. I predict that this Wizards team will go 2-2 this week. They'll beat the Bulls and they'll get the revenge on the Nets as long as they can play better defense, but they'll lose to the Pacers and then coming off a back-to-back lose to the Clippers. So I predict 2-2 for this Wizards team this week.
What do you think, Arun?
I'm feeling 0-4 for some reason. It's starting to be a little bit downer, but I think this Bulls team, they played the Wizards pretty tough. And they didn't have Zach LaVine, and now they're kind of getting their pieces back. And I guess they haven't really been playing that well, but near the Wizards, because they've lost the last three. The Pacers, they blew out the Wizards last time in Washington. And the game, and then the pair of blowouts, like the Wizards won earlier on the road by a lot, but I think the Pacers are playing much better. The Clippers, John Wall returns, so I think, and it's a back-to-back, so I think he'll be motivated. And the Clippers have been playing well even without Kawhi Leonard. And if Paul George is back, it's probably a loss. In Brooklyn, I think that's the most winnable game. I agree with Ken, but for some reason, I think Kevin Durant will come through. They haven't really found a way to slow him down. And plus, the officials seem to give him every call when whoever's guarding him on the Wizards.
Yeah. All right. With that, I think we've talked about the Wizards enough. Unless Arun, do you have any final thoughts on them?
No, not really.
Okay. All right, Chip. I'm gonna let you do a quick little segue and a highlight for the No Spots podcast. I'm looking for the graphic over here. I've got so many graphics. Somewhere's on this one, but here it is. Champ, let people know what's on the No Spots podcast this week.
Oh, so we have a very busy week this week because on Thursday we have our New Japan podcast where myself and Sage are recapping the week's action in World Tag League and Super Junior Tag League, as it's really getting down to the wire and what teams will be going after their respective divisions tag titles at Wrestle Kingdom in January. Friday night will be the weekly wrestling podcast with myself and Sif, where we will be previewing the final pay-per-view for WWE period with NXT Deadline coming up on Saturday. And then Saturday, exclusively on our Twitch channel, myself and Sif will be live reacting to NXT Deadline. So it'll be a very busy time in terms of podcasting, as well as streaming on twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod. And if you want to hear the audio versions of the two podcasts this week, make sure you check out the podcast partners button on SportsOTHP.com, and make sure you continue to check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you as always. We'll have you back on during our Wizards extravaganza next week. And that'll be the last show, at least for my end. And I'm hopeful that now Carol will do one in my absence, which would be kind of fun to go back and forth. It's been a fun night. We talked about a lot of fun things, including a tie, which is rare in football. But in fact, that we didn't talk about this before, but the last time two teams in the NFC East tied was in '97 between the Giants and then Redskins. So
The Gus Farad game.
Yeah, so
I watched that game live when he did that dumbass thing. Holy crap.
Yeah, we've talked about it before on this show. It's kind of funny.
By the way, I was a sophomore in high school when he did that, by the way. Just want to put that out there, how old I am.
Yeah, I must have been in middle school. I'm just a couple years younger, So and Arun's, I think, between us in age. So
yeah, I think I was in high school.
Yeah, so I think but
maybe I don't
know. Wait, 97? I think you
maybe I was in middle school.
You're in middle school.
I was a sophomore in high school, so I'm older than both of y'all.
Right. So I think he was in middle school and I was just the grade below Arun actually in the same middle school. So funny how times have changed. But anyway, champ, as always, thank you so much for being a part of this. We're gonna switch and do a little bit of soccer talk. And then we're gonna switch into hockey talk after that. But champ, you've been awesome as always. Hope people check out the No Spots podcast. And I'll give the command one more time just so people can catch you on twitch.tv/true no spots pod and also sportsothp.com for all the latest. So thank you, champ, as always.
Arigato, sayonara.
All right, and with that, we are going to switch to the World Cup, and we're going to bring Adrian in. Hello, Adrian. How are you doing?
Hey, can you see me?
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
This is